This week on FreshLook, we're going to take a look at the elephant in the room, and that's fat, salt, and sugar, and its impact on our community. Welcome to another episode of Fresh Look. At first, I'd like to take a moment to correct some misstatements from last week's podcast, the government shutdown. I referenced the Congress repeatedly as if it was independent of the Senate. I should have said the House of Representatives, though many people refer to it as the Congress. Both the House and the Senate equals the Congress. As I stated, that the Senate also did not have subpoena power. That too was incorrect. They do have subpoena power. Thanks again for listening. Hope you enjoyed that episode. Today, we would like to discuss health issues and the impact of salt, sugar, and fat, what I refer to as the triple threat to our community. Again, I'm I-Tosh, your host, without an ounce of boast. Please post a comment for FreshLook on Fury.com and let us know what you think or recommend. Makuta is in the studio today again.
So for all of the people them out there who really want to think about their health, one thing they have to do is start thinking about the food that goes into their bodies. And a lot of times we're just going out and we're buying food and we don't really look at what's the content that is in the food. So we put all these food in our bodies. But then when you check, you're going to realize that majority of them, they're high in sugar, they're high in salt, they're high in what
fat.
else, I-Tosh?
Fat.
A lot of fat. So what that means is
Bad fat.
it's really bad for us. So what we're going to do in this show, like I-Tosh said, we're going to look at the triple threats, the type of compounds that we intake in our bodies and the negative effects it have on our bodies. So let's start off with salt.
Well, before we even start, also I want to talk about, it's a new year. And today I think is January 15, I think. We're like halfway through the month already for the first month of the year. And a lot of people made New Year resolutions. And I guarantee that health is a part of that resolution.
Well, I did make health a part of my resolution.
Oh, surprise.
Well, I didn't make a resolution. I said health was a part. Well, I just realized that I double talk.
Right.
So you're right. I did make health a part of my resolution. But what I'm doing is continuing what I started late last year.
Good.
Because now I'm working out a lot more. And I'm losing a lot of pounds.
I'm quite proud of you too, though. I tell you, you do a good job of it.
I'm going to look good too.
Not a mercy. Right. Hey, no comment.
Hey, it don't matter. My wife I tell me some look good. People on the staff I tell me some look good. Come on.
All right.
Hey, if you look good, you look good. You're proud of it. Me proud of it.
All right, settled.
Me love my body.
It's settled. That is settled. No discussion needed on that.
All right. So now, with that resolution, that means the food that I'm intaking, I'm very conscious of it.
Mm-hmm. Good.
So, salt.
Why, the amount of salt you eat, has a direct effect on your blood pressure. We should know that by now. Most people probably already know this. So most of the things that we are going to say here today is probably already known by many people. But it's worth taking a fresh look and saying it again, especially that the new year is here.
But, okay, if I'm Jamaican, you do realize that when we cook our food, unless we are cooking Ital food and we are Rastafarian, we're not putting no salt in our food if we're Ital.
Here comes the problem. It's not just that salt is bad for you. It's the sodium inside the salt that's bad for you.
Okay.
And the amounts of salt that you intake is bad for you. Depends on the levels. Everything, if you use it in its right form and amounts, will be okay. But if you abuse it, a lot of people don't realize that they're abusing salt and they're abusing sugar and they're abusing fat. They think about abusing alcohol and abusing drugs, but these other items that we just mentioned are also being abused. Anything can be abused, for that matter, if you take too much of it.
But it's not like some me go home and me snort salt.
No, you're not. But when you go to the store and you stop at this restaurant and then you stop at that, fast food joint, and then you stop and you pick up a soda, and you stop and you pick up, a burger here or there, you are accumulating a certain amount of milligrams of salt throughout the day, and without even realizing that you're doing so. So that can indeed have a negative impact on your health. And
how really bad is it?
It is bad. I mean, I could give you, cardiovascular disease,
okay,
brain damage, craving for more salt is unhealthy in many ways. Stomach cancer, kidney problems, bloating, just to name a few. The list is just unbelievable, the impact it has on your body.
In order for us not to end up with these type of diseases, what we have to do is be mindful of the amount of sugar that we intake. So that means if we're cooking the food
with salt, in this case.
Yeah, we basically prevent ourselves from putting a lot of salt when we're seasoning our food.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Well, it's not just the season, because we've talked about regular foods that we eat. You can pick up a pack of, let's say, cream crackers, or you
that have salt.
You can pick up a drink. It has salt in it. You can get a can of beans. It has salt in it. It all depends on what you're eating. If you're not reading label contents, if you're not reading the can,
but seriously,
hold on a second. You don't have to do it, But if you want to be health conscious, if you are thinking about minimizing your trips to the doctor as you grow older, or even in your youth, you have to start paying attention to what you're eating. And it's a non-stop thing. It's not just do it this year and stop next year. It's a continuous process.
So basically, if I continue to eat a lot of sugar,
salt too.
Well, I'm sorry, a lot of salt, because we're talking about salt right now. That's going to increase my chances of having high blood pressure.
Absolutely.
And then that turn out to be, it will lead to strain on my heart.
Blood vessels get swollen,
and arteries and kidney, brain issues.
Correct.
So what are we supposed to do then?
Well,
if we end up with these with these type of symptoms?
What you need to do, first of all, is to be conscious that you are doing it. Because a lot of us are doing these eating these types of foods and not realizing what the contents are, right? Some people probably don't even know that sodium is more dangerous than salt itself, and don't know how to differentiate the difference.
But I thought that salt was sodium.
Not necessarily. Sodium is a component of salt, right? It's a property of salt. And therefore, the sodium content can be high in that particular salt that you're using compared to a different brand or type of salt. That's why they have sea salt, they have iodized salt. There are many different variations of salt. So you have to be mindful as to what you're doing. See, so there's a difference.
And that's a bit confusing for people who don't know any difference.
There it is.
Because now we think that, oh yeah, we're putting salt in our food and we're intaking salt. Salt's not really bad, but basically we're intaking a lot of sodium.
Correct.
Because when you look at the warning labels on the food, they'll say sodium. But I don't think majority of them say salt.
Mm-hmm. Some do. Some say salt. Some foods do say, labels do say salt, because I read those every day religiously.
So here's the thing. From what I'm reading here, it says that the differences between salt and sodium is salt is sodium plus chloride. Mm-hmm. They're both minerals. Mm-hmm. Salt is made up of about 40% sodium and 60% chloride. Mm-hmm. Wow. Mm-hmm. And it's what, 40% that cause so much concern. So doctors are concerned about the 40%. Mm-hmm. So it says it points to the dangers of people overdoing salt intake in their daily diets. Mm-hmm. So basically, again, it can lead to high blood pressure, strokes, and kidney disease.
Correct. That's just to name a few. I'm pretty sure there are many others, but I would advise that you speak to your doctor, because everyone has a different tolerance level, just for anything else.
Yeah.
You know, I could eat half a milligram of salt and be good. Another person may need 5 milligrams of salt to be to satisfy their daily requirement.
Okay, Josh, here's the thing. Me hear you. Mm-hmm. And honestly, I want to be health conscious. But I find it very difficult to try and differentiate or decide whether or not I want to put salt in my rice and peas, or put salt in my stew chicken when me I cook it. I mean, come on.
Nobody is saying you cannot use salt, but you can find alternatives to salt.
What are some of the alternatives?
Spices are an alternative to salt. Foods that are high in potassium are an alternative to salt, because those potassium, for instance, lowers your sodium content in your body. It counteracts the sodium content in your body. So,
see, I understand that, but what I find difficult is really thinking about all of the rest of them. We give up salt and all bland them food taste. It's like, listen. You know, we go to some people's house and then cook food, and some of them don't know how to cook and they know how to season them food. But when you taste the food, it's so bland.
Yes.
Kind of no seasoning, and it really not no sugar.
That's what I just said.
No salt.
That's what I just said earlier. Spices can change the flavor of your meals to where it doesn't require as much salt as you're currently using.
Yeah.
That's the difference. So if you can minimize or cut in half your salt intake, you'll be fine. You'll be doing good, right? And then because your body is acclimatizing to that new level. Because remember, everything is on a tolerance type scale. You know, you could be eating 10 bags of sugar and you feel good, but then you start eating half bag and you feel crappy, right? Same thing with salt, right? But after a 2-week or a 3-week span, then your body starts to adjust to the new levels of sodium that you're intaking. And then you can cut that again further into half. And then your body adjusts again. So it's just a discipline and a paradigm shift in your intake as you go through the process. So
I get it now.
But you cannot talk about when you go to other people's house and what you eat and don't eat. If you go there, you already say it's fair game to eat what is there.
Yeah,
which
but
is fine.
here's the difference.
If you're
Here's the
doing
difference
your own
between that.
meals, if you're doing your own meals, you're responsible for that.
Exactly. But then you're also responsible for what you buy at the stores.
Correct.
And what's good when you buy at the stores, you can actually see what some of the salt content is.
Mm-hmm.
But then when you go at somebody's yard, you don't know more sugar than put in them food. No,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, salt.
Well, you may not know, but you can taste it. And then you'll know how much of that particular meal to eat.
Yeah, that food is salty, man.
So if it's too salty for you, because your brain is going to tell you when something is salty, depending on your threshold that you already have.
Yeah, true.
Just like when you smell gasoline. By the time you start smell gasoline at the gas station, that means your body is already refusing the level of toxicity in the gasoline. That is why you smell it already. So it's already past the threshold. The same thing for salt.
All right, so no, there's other things that is not, it's, I wouldn't say really, really, really bad for you, but there's something that I noticed. Besides salt, I realized that in every food product that is currently on the market, it all contains sugar.
Well, we all know that sugar helps the brain to work, especially in its natural forms.
Okay.
You know, the brain needs sugar to function. The body needs sugar to function. You know, it needs all these, it needs salt also to function. But everything has to be in moderation.
Okay.
Moderation is important. And most foods that are on this earth already have natural sugars in them. So you don't need to add a whole lot of anything. Natural honey is out there. It's a natural. Molasses, people use, there's a lot of different forms. If you cut open a carrot and blend it up, it already has sugar.
Yeah, it's already
sweet. If you do a
sweet.
sweet potato, it's already have sugar.
Yep.
I can go on and on and on.
But the thing that I notice now, and this is what I kind of feel is bad now, because there are agencies out there that did a lot of studies, and there are a lot of pharmaceutical products out there that is really bad for us. But there is one thing that I think people are more addicted to than the pharmaceutical products, and that's sugar. Because people can't go one day without eating or drinking something sweet.
They can, but they already been acclimatized to not.
But honestly, it's like it's an addiction. You can't go. And in addition to that, I watch people drink a ton of soda all day.
You know what?
Just because them have that need for sugar.
You know the worst one on the market?
Which one?
Corn syrup.
Yep. Because that is in
killer.
everything.
That's the killer. It's cheaper to manufacture. It's easier to blend into foods. And it's the number one most dangerous form of, what do you call that? Artificial sweetener there is.
Yeah, there's a ton of artificial sweeteners.
But that one takes the cake. Corn syrup takes the cake.
Okay, hold on a second. I know there was this thing that talks about sugar. So let's take a
Today,
look.
we're going to be answering the question of what does sugar do to your body and the 10 negative effects of sugar. We'll also answer the question of if fruit is good or bad for you at the end, so don't miss it. Number 1, sugar can give you wrinkles and adds age to your face. Scientists from Leiden University Medical Center in the Netherlands measured the blood sugar levels of 600 men and women aged between 50 and 70. They then showed the photographs of these people to 60 separate participants and found that those with higher blood sugar looked older than those with lower lower blood sugar levels. In fact, for every 1 millimeter per liter increase in blood sugar, the perceived age of that person rose by 5 months. Number 2, sugar is associated with acne. Foods ranked high on the glycemic index, such as sugar and refined carbs, have been associated with greater amounts of acne on the face and body, according to the latest research. A study of Australian men showed that those who ate a diet with a low glycemic load saw a great reduction in overall acne. It was a small study with only 23 men, but is still food for thought. Number 3,
Okay, so that part about acne, I would tell you this. When I used to eat a lot of sugary products, my face used to break out a lot. And it used to be horrible. So what did I do? I invest in these acne products. And none of it worked. The only time the pimples and the acne stopped is when I stopped eating sugary products.
It's in the blood.
Yeah.
It's already, corroded your blood. So you needed to cleanse the blood in order to have your skin breathe freely. So it's not just that. It affects your immune system.
Yep.
In order for your body to fight off simple colds or simple flu or whatever, inflammations that are happening in your body, sugar prevents that from happening. Because when you have a high intake of sugar in your blood, your body is so busy trying to react to that sugar, it cannot fight. And after you get that spike in glucose and then it falls, your body can't perform no more. You want to go drop down and sleep.
Yeah, because now you
you have no more energy. Yeah. Your body has no more energy to fight off the diseases or the inflammation that's going on in your body.
Like I said, it's like a drug.
Yes.
It's just like a drug. Now look at number 3.
drinks cause an 83% increased risk in developing type 2 diabetes. In one study of 91,249 women showed that those who consumed one sugar-sweetened beverage a day had an 83% increased risk of developing type 2 diabetes compared to those that only had one a month. Number 4, sugar intake increases the risk of developing certain types of cancers. There has been a direct link seen between breast and colon cancer with sugar consumption. This is likely due to the fact that insulin is one of the key factors behind the growth and multiplication of cells, and sugar spikes insulin to abnormally high levels. Number 5, sugar can ruin your teeth. A study done by the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition showed that sugar destroys the healthy bacteria in the mouth. This can cause tooth erosions and may dim that bright smile. What about sugar and weight gain? There are 5 reasons why sugar can cause us to gain weight. Number 6, sugar is the premier definition of empty calories. It has no real nutritional value, no nutrients, no minerals, no proteins, and no fiber. Because of this lack of nutrients, number 7, sugar makes you feel hungry. In a study done by Yale University, those that consumed sugar had an increased appetite and desire for more. So not only does sugar fill you up with empty calories, it makes you want more of those calories. This process happens when sugar screws up the hormonal levels in the body, which leads to number 8, sugar blocks leptin and raises insulin to supernatural levels. Leptin is a hormone in charge of telling us that we're full and need to stop eating. It also tells us that we have energy and should go out and use that energy. Sugar consumption blocks this hormone from doing its job and from reaching the brain. Sugar also spikes insulin, making it very hard for the body to access and burn the stored fat on our bodies. Number 9, sugar causes belly fat. Numerous studies have shown direct links from sugar to the increased accumulation of belly fat. This is the worst kind of fat because it is the one associated with all sorts of diseases, including the world's number 1 killer, heart disease. Despite knowing all of this, it's hard to stop eating sugar because number 10, sugar is addictive. Similar to drugs like cocaine, scientists have shown that sugar causes a very similar dopamine release in the brain. Studies on neuroplasticity have also shown that drug users have very similar behavioral addictions to those addicted to sugar. Point blank, sugar is addicting and it comes without the immediate social repercussions of frequent drug use. That's why it's so hard to stop eating it. How much should you eat per day? None. There is not a real reason to be eating this food in your diet, but only on the rare occasion as a treat. What about fruit? Fruit has fiber, vitamins, minerals, water, and tons of nutrients that refined sugar does not have. This is why when studies compare diets with refined sugar to fruit sugar, the negative effects are not the same. That being said, you will want to pay attention to fruit sugar if your goal is weight loss. Things like fruit smoothies are not good for weight loss goals as they do still have sugars even though those sugars are natural. Sticking to whole sources like apples, oranges, and berries are a much better idea.
You can't get away from it. It's that elephant in the room, for sure.
Yeah. Damn.
But let's not forget the kids. I often see people handing their children cans of soda.
Yep.
And I look at a can of a specific brand of cola that's on the market. And that can had 38 grams of sugar just in that can. And the average soda has about 30 to 38 grams of sugar in is that 12 ounce? A 12 ounce can. Mm-hmm. That is crazy. And people are giving those things to their children. And it's affecting their cognitive skills.
And just imagine this. During Halloween, kids get a ton of candy. Mm-hmm. And what them do? Them yum all of the candy. And that's all sugar. Artificial sugar.
But most parents, because I know I know people that goes to trick or treat, right? And I will tell them not to eat that much candy, And right now, folks are starting to change up the narrative where they're using or giving out fruits, or they're giving out healthy snacks to change up the narrative as to what Halloween represents with this candy thing, because it doesn't have to be candy for them to begin. So I think as the years go on and people realizes the impact of that on their children, they'll stop to indulge in that activity, and because it just causes lots of stress, and sugar, take the space of many other important nutrients that you're supposed to put in your body. Sugar fights those off and diminishes the effects of those other nutrients that are supposed to be in your body. Even if you're eating healthy, but you're still having a lot of sugar intake, the sugar is going to counteract that healthy diet that you're having.
So when I'm trying to get my belly fat reduced, and I'm still eating like these caramel coated peanuts, that's sugar I'm putting along in my body with the caramel. Or when I'm eating caramel coated almond.
But it all depends on if you were eating 12 caramel sugar candy before, right? But you start eating 4 now. That's a different intake. At least you're reducing the impact of sugar gradually on your body. So you're going to be fine eventually as you minimize that.
Yeah, but it's very hard for people to give up sugar, especially when, it has been a part of their daily routine. But for me personally, I've given up a lot of sugar, and I replace it with more. Well, I just drink water. And so for drinks, I drink water. And for food, I don't really eat candy. I don't eat, I don't eat Snickers. I don't eat none of those candy bars. I just don't eat a lot of sugary products. Because early on, when I realized that sugar was bad for me, I just stopped. Because again, like I said early on, when I used to eat a lot of sugar, my face used to break out. And because me want to attract woman, me realize that me have to give up sugar. Because me never want to continue to have pimple because that turn off woman. And since me want diet, I did not want that to be a factor in me dating.
I understand. Here's an important fact. According to the USDA data, people who consume the most sugar have the lowest intake of essential nutrients.
Yep.
Hey, especially, hold on. Especially vitamin A, vitamin C, B12, and calcium. The trade-off is especially dangerous for children and teenagers. This is the populace, this is the demographic, teenagers and children who simultaneously consume the most sugar, yet they're the ones that needs the most nutrients.
Yep.
So that's a very insightful situation that parents ought to be aware of.
But the other thing that I realized is that sugary products are being marketed to teenagers and kids. And it kind of seemed like when they were trying to make it, again, I'm sorry, I'm about to make this political, but there were movements in the schools where they were trying to go to healthy alternatives. And the Obama administration did put that forward, and kids were actually getting healthy choices.
Correct. I remember that.
But then Trump came into office and revert back to the original things.
Where he's eating out hamburgers and and hot
so
dogs.
now kids are eating less healthy food. I know they're back to having bad eating habits.
But here comes the trick. I don't know if you saw. I was about to mention this earlier.
Yeah,
I'm not sure if you saw in the media today where the president was serving fast food in the White House to the football team, the college football team that won the championship.
I'm rolling my eyes right now.
You can look it up. I'm not lying. That's what's being served.
Just honestly, just look at the amount of people that is currently having health issues across the country. And again, I understand that hamburger is the pastime food. So when you go out and you play football and sports and whatever, hamburger is one of the things that's going to be served. I get it.
I just say that because you talked about the reversal of some of these school lunch programs and the mindset that some people in the populace have about health. Yes, it's a freedom of choice. You have willpower to decide what you want to eat. But if you're the one that's going to go to the doctor and complain about your illnesses 5-10 years later, about the type of foods that you were eating and you didn't take that into consideration, that's laughable.
Yep.
That's very laughable. So here we have a circumstance where we have one, the first lady was, championing healthy foods, and she got a lot of backlash about trying to change the way, people are supposed to eat, or trying to tell people how they're supposed to eat.
Yeah.
Right. And these are the people that say they care about you and they want you to have good health care and so forth. But on the contrary, you have other people in other aspects of the government that are feeding bad foods, or not so healthy food, I should say, and giving a bad impression of how these kind of foods are supposed to be eaten when they know that they're not good for the individuals. That is mind-boggling and irresponsible.
Yeah, and but again, just think of it like this. We continue to eat a lot of the sugar, and then next thing you know, it increase our body fat. And next thing you know, we get larger and we now have obesity problems. And now we got to think about,
which leads us to our next point about fat.
Good and bad fat.
Fat, which is that living, breathing thing that affects your hormones, right? So it causes inflammation, and even the levels of toxins in your body is determined by your fat intake.
So just take a listen to this.
Question about what are the good fats, what are the bad fats. So I just created a little chart here to quickly run through to show you what would be good and what would be bad, okay? Grass-fed fats, all the animal products, beef, chicken, turkey, are all good. Of course, cheese, grass-fed cheese is really good. Butter, grass-fed butter is good. Grass-fed cream, all that's really good. Olive oil, even though it's omega-6, which is usually inflammatory, olive oil does not create inflammation. So that's a really awesome, good oil. Palm oil is good. Coconut oil is really good. Nuts and seeds have healthy oils. Peanut butter, almond butter, other nut butters are good too. Just make sure it doesn't have sugar in it or any type of additional thing. I like to get peanut butter organic with sea salt. Avocado is awesome. Flaxseed oil is good because even though it helps to balance estrogen, it will not increase estrogen beyond your normal limit. What it does, it gives you more good estrogen and it eliminates the bad estrogen, so the ratios are better. It will not increase more total estrogen than you already have in your body, so you don't have to worry about it. But this is a great omega-3 fatty acid. Sesame seed oil is really good as well. This is good for the blood. It's also in something called tahini. You can get it at the health store or any grocery store has it. So then we have lard, which is from pork, and tallow, which is from beef. So I'm not promoting that you're consuming large amounts of this, but if you're consuming different foods and it's in the pan, it is not a problem at all. The only thing is with people with gallbladder issues, if they consume too much saturated fats, it might aggravate the gallbladder. And these animal products are not grain-fed, they're grass-fed. Wild-caught fish, a totally healthy type of omega-3 fat. Now, I put fish oils in the middle because if you're getting your fish oils from Costco or some large grocery store, it could be pretty rancid, so the quality is not there. So if you want a good fish oil, I would get something that's high quality. I like the virgin cod liver oil the best, but you can shop around for something very high quality. Safflower oil and sunflower oil are right in the middle too. These oils are not a problem. It's just that they're high in omega-6. So if you're consuming a lot of omega-6 and not enough omega-3, it could create more inflammation because omega-6 is inflammatory and omega-3 is anti-inflammatory. Then we get to the bad fats.
All right, before we get into the bad fat, seriously,
Impact.
I never really think about fat like, okay, fat is good for you, fat is bad for me. When I think about fat, I think about fat like, damn, may I get big, may I get fat. So I never really thought about like what, like all these type of fats.
Hold on. If you get big and you get fat,
are the same thing.
that's not good. Because when you start to notice that, then you should already know that you're already
It's too late.
You're taking in the bad ones for
Okay.
sure.
All right. So, okay, go ahead. Continue.
Yes, I was about to speak about the impact of excess fat. Because remember now I know, fats are good for you and fats are bad for you. There's
Certain types of fats.
Yeah, different types.
Okay.
So if you're taking in the negative type, the bad ones, then that is going to cause extra pounds, which is equal to more inflammation, right? It's going to cause osteoporosis, right? Which is going to have all kinds of issue against your bone loss. And it's going to, if you ever know anyone with osteoporosis, it's a very painful situation. So you have to be careful about that one. Horrible for your hormones. It impedes human growth hormone, and that can be a problem for developing people, especially young teenagers and young adults. So we have to be careful about that also. Fat stores environmental toxins. Wow. What does that mean?
Fat stores environmental toxins.
What does that mean?
So, how?
Wow. There's already toxins in fat. And when you talk about environment, you're talking about there's mercury that floats around in the air. There's mercury in some foods. There's mercury in the air. There's mercury in fish. Yeah, there's mercury in fish. There's lots of different chemicals. If you walk by, you smell, some kind of gasoline product or a byproduct of a gasoline or exhaust that's already out there in the air. Those kind of toxins are going to be trapped in your body, to include the other toxins that you're taking in from that meat or from that animal or from that bad fat that you're eating. So that is very, very bad. Paint, automotive fluids, I mean, I can list quite a few of them. There's a lot of polychlorinated things that are out there in the air that we take in on a daily basis. But if your body is not equipped to get rid of it because it has too much fat level, it's going to store it. And that builds up cancers and cancerous situation in your different organs in your body that manifest themselves later on in your life. And you wind up spending lots of times at the doctor, and that's a bad situation for all families involved.
Okay, so Dr. Eric Berg gave us some good fat that we can actually intake. So what about the bad fat foods that we should not intake?
Like corn, cottonseed, canola, GMO, and also omega-6. So they're very inflammatory. I would stay away from them. Margarine, stay away from it. It's a trans fat, so it's an altered fat. You're going to see it either partially hydrogenated or hydrogenated. Just stay away from it. It's going to create problems. So be careful about the oils in restaurant foods, especially if they're frying it, because of the amount of soy they use. Unless you're going to a carnival and getting your fried foods, or the state fair, or the all-you-can-eat buffet. And I'm being very sarcastic because all of those places have soy or corn oil, okay, or probably hydrogenated oils. Now, one point I wanted to make about saturated fats. You need saturated fats for 50% of the cellular membranes that you have in your body. So it's a necessity. It's a beneficial thing. Now, I do want to bring up the fact that people are freaked out about saturated fats, but the Framingham study, which is an extremely large study over a long period of time, found some interesting data. I'll put a link down below. They found this, and you might find this hard to believe, that the more saturated fats that you eat, the less heart attacks you get, okay? Now, I'm going to put some data down below to check this out, but that's a fact, okay? So saturated fats do not create a problem. It's the insulin, it's the sugars that do it. And the other really important fact I'm going to bring up is that there is no study that connects consuming high cholesterol foods with increasing your cholesterol. Okay? Why? Because your body makes cholesterol, and if you eat more, it makes less. Okay? That's interesting. And the last...
Hold on a second. Did he just say...
Yes, you heard what he said.
Insulin and sugar.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
It goes back to that beast. The sugar is a beast, my friend. You can't get away from it. And if you can't untangle that beast, it's going to take you down.
Wow.
I want to bring up is the plaque that clogs your arteries is actually 26% saturated fats, and the rest of it is unsaturated fats. So you don't have to be afraid of consuming healthy saturated fats. Really, you need to be concerned about the unsaturated ones, especially if they're GMO. I'll see you in the next video.
Wow.
That's quite interesting. Well, I think we, drive the point home. I hope we drive the point home. So I want to, leave you guys in closing, and I will say this. Don't make it hard to live a naturally long life on this earth. There's plenty of food that you can eat to complement your health without having to worry about, excessive intakes of those things that we mentioned, salt, fat, and sugar. So don't make it hard to live on this earth. Muster the discipline required here, or you won't survive in your heaven that you plan to go. Our community, eats in the various genetically induced diets, most of it riddled with fat, salt, and sugar. Some of our favorite meals are derived from our history of enslavement. Do not enslave yourself to bad foods. New Year? Try to make the change, or seek help from a friend, a neighbor, a family member to improve your quality of life and health. Until next time, I am I-Tosh with my brethren Makuta, Walk good.